Hello, my name is Jacob Monk and welcome to this short video about Stalin. Well, Stalin, he was the leader of Soviet Union, and Soviet Union, it ended in 1991. He was living from 1878 until 1953, and his birthplace was Georgia. And the reason I'm making this video about Stalin is that I have just visited Georgia. Well, I didn't have the time to visit Gori, the birthplace of Stalin, but all over Georgia you will find different memorabilia of Stalin. In the shops you can buy small Stalin plates, and you can buy books written by Stalin in Georgian language and a lot of other things, because in Georgia generally they're quite proud of Stalin, although they don't have public monuments memorizing Stalin anymore. They were put down 5 or 10 years ago, at the same time when Georgia applied to be a member of EU, the European Union, and NATO, because today's Georgia is certainly not a part of Soviet Union anymore, because Soviet Union is non-existent. Well, they are trying to be a part of Western Europe. I don't know if they will succeed. Until now, they haven't been allowed to be a member of the European Union or NATO, but that's what they are applying to. And when you visit the center of Tislibi, the main city in Georgia, you will find a big center for information about the European Union and NATO. So for Georgians, NATO and European Union is just about the same. And I think they believe it is the alternative to be dominated by Russia. And a few years back, Russia actually invaded Georgia because they have some border areas, of course, close to the border to Russia, where it is debated who is the legitimized ruler. Is it the Georgian part of town? Is it a Russian part of the country, or is it a mixture? Well, no one really knows, and therefore the borders of Georgia, they are not absolutely clear. Therefore, they can risk coming in more conflicts with Russia and also with other of their neighboring states, because in Caucasus, and Georgia is a part of Caucasus, well, there the borders, they are not so sharp as they are in Europe. Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about Stalin, not so much about Georgia. This is only the reason why I got inspired to talk about Stalin, because I visited Georgia a few weeks ago. Well, in my opinion, Stalin is a great person. He was a great person. And if I could do magic, I would say Stalin should have continued living also beyond 1953, where he actually died. Then a lot of people say, well, he was a dictator. Yeah, I'm sure he was a dictator. But the reason why Soviet Union won Second World War against Hitler Germany was because of the leadership of Stalin. 27 million Russians were killed during Second World War. Only about 250,000 Americans were killed. So it's very easy to see who defeated Nazi Germany. About 90% of the German soldiers being killed during Second World War, they were killed by the Russians. So it is because of the leadership of Stalin that we won Second World War. My own grandfather was killed by the Japanese in Indonesia during Second World War. And you know the Japanese, they were allied with Adolf Hitler, so they were some kind, the Asian equivalent to European Nazis. And I don't like Nazism. I'm very happy that Adolf Hitler did not win the Second World War. And that is the first reason I admire Stalin. And when I would wish that he had lived on, he was living up until this day and even further on, it is because when Stalin died, the the disintegration of Soviet Union started up. And during the leadership of Yeltsin, the leader of Russia, and also of Gorbachev, the disintegration of Soviet Union was fulfilled. And after 1991, the different states, among them Estonia, Lithuania, Georgia, Kazakhstan, and so on, they all wanted to be independent states. And since then, we have a lot of border conflicts with Russia and among these states. It's much better to have a one big integrated United State like Soviet Union than it is to have a lot of small so-called independent states being in conflict with each other. The reason why Georgia is such a poor state today is because they are not part of any economic union. And that's what they want to be. They want to be a part of the European Union. But they could just as well have been part of the Soviet Union if it was existing. But it is not, unfortunately. So the first reason I'm sorry that Stalin is not living is that his death was the reason that Soviet Union stopped existing. Well, if the Soviet Union had continued existing, then the American imperialism in modern time wouldn't have had such a success. They have invaded a lot of countries and destroyed them also. Think about Libya, about Iraq, about Syria. Well, Americans, they are specialized in illegal, violent bombardments and invasions in foreign countries. They don't think that USA apply to international law. They don't care at all about international law. They say we are exceptionalist because USA is some kind run by God himself, so therefore they are not subdued to international law. The only thing that can stop the American destroying the world and invading other countries illegally is a forceful opponent. And this opponent will come. It is rising. Russia and China, they are coming big states. Well, but there have been so many invasions, and the development of an alternative power center, alternative to USA and NATO, would have happened much faster if Soviet Union did not dissolve. And Soviet Union could easily have changed their economical systems, just like they did in China. In Soviet Union, they had a Marxist-Leninist Communist Party. Still today in China, they have a Marxist-Leninist Communist Party, but they are running a capitalist economy, and therefore China is such a big economical success. Soviet Union could have done the same if they did not hadn't dissolved their own country. This was a huge fault that was made by Mr. Gorbachev and Mr. Yeltsin, after the death of Stalin? Well, the third reason I'm very much sad about the death of Stalin is that Stalin, he really repressed the unsympathetic Russian Orthodox religion. You know, the core belief in the Orthodox religion in Russia is that only members of the Russian Orthodox Church can go to heaven. If I'm a Catholic living in Denmark, if I wanted to go to communion in Russia, then I had to convert to Orthodox faith. They don't even consider Catholics to be Christians, and Protestants, of course, not Christians. Well, the Orthodox Church in Russia is a sect. We are lucky they are not so big, and now the Ukrainian part of the church, that is 40% of the Russian Orthodox Church, they have split out from the leadership of the Moscovian Patriarch Kirill. But this whole process of keeping the Orthodox faith down and on that way preventing the racism and nationalism running Russia today, this process would have continued much faster. And the possibility of having a working cultural relationship between the Christianity in the East and the Christianity in the West, that is the Catholic Church with 1.3 billion members and the Russian Orthodox Church maybe with 30, I don't know exactly, but let me guess, maybe they have 50 or 60 million members. But what is important is that these members, they are armed with the biggest arsenal of atomic weapons in the world. Therefore, we cannot ignore what is happening in Russia, because Russia is a superpower. And I hope they'll continue to be a superpower. But the problem is they're run by a racist religion. And Stalin, he did what he could to repress this religion. After Stalin disappeared, this religion has got the possibility to develop. Now they are proselytizing, trying to get converts all over the world, including in Denmark, where I'm living, and in the Catholic countries. But we are not allowed to send missionaries to Russia, because the Russian Orthodox Church, they don't believe in religious freedom in Russia. They only believe in religious freedom in Europe, in USA, but not in Russia. So therefore, most Protestant religions, most Protestant sects, and even the Catholic religion are partly banned in Russia. The Pope are not allowed to go to Russia, and we are not allowed to have Catholic bishops in Russia. Therefore, they don't have a real running Catholic Church in Russia. They don't have religious freedom. And the reason they don't have that is because of the so-called Christian Russian Orthodox Church. So, long live Stalin, but he did what he could to repress the Orthodox religion. The third reason, I think that we still need Stalin, and I hope another Stalin will appear, maybe when Putin is gone. Well, it is because Stalin, he was a follower of the idea that Russia and China has to work together. You know, the Orthodox Church, they are very much against China, because China is not an Orthodox country. It's not even a Christian country. And in the Orthodox religion, it's only the Christian Orthodox Russian that can go to heaven. That means that China is, they are doomed to going to hell, just like all other countries in the world except Russia. So therefore, the possibility of making a unification, maybe a defense pact with China and Russia, it would be much better if Stalin was alive, because the Orthodox Church is very much against China, just as they are against Western Europe, against EU, against the Catholic Church, and against anything that is different from the old Russian way of thinking. So therefore, we cannot ignore the Orthodox Church because it is weaponized with atomic weapons. And therefore, I would like Stalin to be alive, because I'm quite sure that he would have been able to make a peace tract with USA, and of course also to work with China. He was a great leader. At the Yalta Agreement, he worked with Churchill and Roosevelt. Of course, he would be able to work with the later American president, to make a world peace and to make the world a better place to stay, a better place to live. Well, I know that Stalin couldn't solve all problems in the world, but we need the Soviet Union to exist, and it does not exist. Therefore, we have a world run by the unconstitutional and illegal imperialist criminal state, USA. Denmark is a part of NATO, and NATO is only an organization for the small states following USA. This is not good. So we need an alternative to NATO, and I'm sure Stalin would have created that a long time ago. So I'll put up my my sign here. It shows Stalin, and I bought it in Georgia, and this is the inspiration and my reason for being an admirer of Stalin. Thank you for listening.